Immigrants are driving up housing prices. It's a common protest at rallies, across Reddit threads, and in everyday conversations around the dinner table. And in a country where housing prices are increasingly unaffordable, it's a logical scapegoat. But let's look at the facts. Between 2018 and 2022, home prices across Canadian municipalities rose on average by 22.3%. Immigration? It only accounted for 1.5% of that increase, according to the federal government's own research. Now, whether or not you actually trust the federal government's own research is a whole other story. So, is immigration the problem? Or is it the lack of housing supply to support that population growth that is currently causing the issues? Let me explain. Most Canadians don't realize that they're overpaying on their mortgage until it's too late. That's why we created the VIP Mortgage Management Program. It's 100% free, it takes under a minute, and it'll show you your current property value, the equity that you've built within your home, if your interest rate still stacks up, and on top of that, whether or not you can make moves like refinancing, investing, or upgrading your property. You've got a powerful asset. This report, it helps you use it properly. To get your report today, click the link below. Now, back to the video. Okay, the prices are wild. Between 2000 and 2023, home prices increased by 375%. Meanwhile, your Canadian household income only increased by 91%. That means that housing prices rose 4 times faster than Canadian wages. And this isn't just a Toronto and Vancouver story either. Kelowna, London, Ontario, Halifax, all saw prices double or triple in the last 10 to 15 years. So naturally, people are looking for somebody to blame. And immigration, it's an easy target. But let's take a look at what the data actually says. From 2018 to 2022, home prices across average Canadian municipalities rose by 22.3%. Now, according to the federal government's own data, immigration, it only accounted for 1.5% of that increase. 1.5. The rest? Record low interest rates, supply shortages, construction delays, zoning issues, as well as investor speculation all make up the rest of it. So is immigration really the problem? Not really. But the fact that we're growing faster than we're building, that's a problem. In 2025, IRCC and StatsCan released a much deeper study. This one looked at immigration and housing data across nearly 2,000 different municipalities between 2006 and 2021. Here's what it found. Immigration accounted for 11% of the overall rise in home prices and rents. But in the big cities, those with a population of over 100,000 people or more, the numbers were vastly different. Home prices were impacted by roughly 21% and rents 13%. So does immigration have an impact? Definitely, especially in these big cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. But again, it's not the only reason that we have sky-high prices. In fact, it's not even the main reason. Here's the twist that most people aren't talking about. Immigrants, they're not just buying homes, they're helping us build them too. Canada is facing a massive skilled labor shortage in construction and trades. According to BuildForce Canada, it's expected that we need to hire almost 300,000 construction workers by 2033 in order to keep pace with the demand. And of the existing construction workforce, it's expected that 22% of them will retire by 2032. And immigrants, they're already filling that gap. It's expected that in 2021, more than 1 in 4 construction workers were immigrants. And among trades like carpentry, electricians, and heavy machinery operators, we've seen a steady increase in the last decade of immigrants filling these roles. In Ontario alone, it's expected that over 30% of the whole construction workforce is made up of immigrants. So yes, immigration definitely is going to be adding pressure to the housing market in the short term. But in the long term, experts expect that skilled immigrants may be our only way of building our way out of this crisis. The key to this is skilled immigrants and controlled immigration that has very specific need and purpose that is tracked. That's not something that we've seen in short order from our current Liberal government or past Liberal government. Yes, that Mark Carney, former Bank of Canada governor. And this time, he's not back in the headlines due to interest rates, it's due to housing. Mark Carney's message? If Canada wants to grow its population, we have to grow everything else too. Housing, transit, schools, infrastructure. Basically, immigration and housing policy, they can't live separate anymore. And what a novel idea. You would think that our government over the last 10 years would have figured out that these two things have to go hand in hand together. We'll have to see whether or not he can deliver upon these promises and this key common sense aspect that the majority of Canadians figured out a long time ago. It's not officially one thing, but two coordinated efforts. The first is building Canadian homes, a federal initiative that is targeted at increasing the amount of housing starts to 500,000 per year, unlocking federal land for development, and injecting $25 billion into constructing prefabricated homes. This is being called the One Canadian Economy Act and is framed as the biggest housing initiative since World War II. This is where Carney's broader strategy comes in, aligning population growth with infrastructure capacity. Here's what it looks like. He plans to link immigration targets to housing supply and infrastructure readiness, so we don't invite people in without somewhere for them to go. Secondly, he wants to fast-track skilled tradespeople through immigration, because if we want more homes, we need more people to build them. It's going to require coordination between federal, provincial, and municipal housing plans so that cities aren't left scrambling. And he wants to unlock underused federal land for housing projects, especially in dense urban areas where land is scarce. Accelerating purpose-built rentals is the last piece of this puzzle because not everybody is going to own, and that's okay. It's not a silver bullet, but this is the first serious attempt in decades to treat immigration and housing as two sides of the same problem. And if Carney's right, and if anything else that we've seen over the last 10 years plays out to be true, doing nothing is going to be far worse. Sounds reasonable, right? But here's the catch. The government was warned about this years ago. In 2022, IRCC internal documents were obtained by the Canadian press that showed that public servants were already raising the alarm. Population growth has exceeded the growth in available housing units. Rapid increases put pressure on healthcare and affordable housing. Still, our government, they raised the target for permanent residents to 500,000 people per year by the year 2025. And while permanent migration is planned, temporary migration is not. International students, temporary workers, they make up about 75% of our overall population growth. And that is what experts say is really stressing the system. Okay, so what does this mean for you? If you're a homeowner, immigration is good for overall home values. More people, more demand, higher prices. However, things are shifting. We're going to see tighter immigration policies likely for the foreseeable future, and those rapid gains that we've seen in home prices are likely to be muted moving forward. If you're looking to get into the market, don't blame immigrants. Blame the supply. What we need to look at is how fast are we actually building moving forward? And if you're just frustrated, you're not wrong. However, blaming immigrants isn't going to get us anywhere. What's landed us here is really policy.